We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.
Hey guys, welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Peterson. I think I have to admit that I made a mistake. You're seeing the wrong title of the show today. This was a duplicate. I used a template for a previous podcast because, boy, are we going to get a lot spicier than this. Let me pop up the overlay because we are talking about this today, folks. White Afrikaner debate proves Dems hate you and they never cared about illegals. I am going to get nuked over on YouTube. Sometimes I like to test the limits and see what we can get away with. Absolutely not streaming on Facebook today. They would unpublish before I even went live with just a title like this. But folks, this story is crazy. We're going to get into a little of all of it today, a little background, a little history, a little reaction from your Dems, MSNBC and CNN. We're going to listen to Donald Trump speak about this. We're going to play some clips straight out of South Africa here. Got some great tweets here that are kind of summarizing the true intentions being laid bare here. But I will just cut to the chase, TLDR. The resistance to white South Afrikaners being settled as refugees in America proves that Democrats never cared about any immigrants. They cared about one thing and one thing only, that was destroying this country. It was about demoralizing you. It was about changing the political, cultural, and everything political landscape here in America here. They simply hate you for being white. They were willing to resettle tens of millions of brown third world illegal immigrants here. But as soon as Donald Trump says, I'm going to bring in like 60 white South Afrikaners that are actually facing political persecution, I will show you the clips. You will hear black South African leaders tell you themselves they are murdering whites in South Africa, scores of them, hundreds of them, thousands of them. You've never heard that story because the media doesn't want to talk about the fact that this is what happens in a black majority democracy. And I know all the sensitive ears out there are like, wow, that's really harsh. You're going after black democracies, black majority democracies. You're talking about how they hate white people. You're such a snowflake over here. You live in America. It's a white majority nation still. Not if the left gets their way. Not if they're able to continue importing tens of millions of third world socialists, uneducated, violent, radically different culturally with values, political ideas, this notion of limited government and constitutional values here. They hate everything about the ideas you hold. They hate everything simply about you. Honestly, folks, it just underscores the fact that they hate you for being white. That is what this boils down to. If Donald Trump said, I'm going to pluck out 60 people from any other country in the world, and, oh yeah, he has a claim for asylum, they're refugees, they're getting persecuted somehow, you wouldn't hear a peep. But because they happen to be white, because they expose, again, what happens in these black majority democracies, which end up just being murderous, genocidal regimes every single time. And again, I've made the point, one of my business partners, Will Tanner, he's going to show up on the podcast this Friday on Freedom from the Press. We do stream on Facebook for that. That'll probably be a Rumble only here. You can find that over on our main Rumble channel, though, the American Tribune. It goes live at 10 a.m. Central on Friday. We're going to deep dive into Rhodesia, into South Africa. He's the historian of the group. He writes a fantastic Substack. You can go to theamericantribune.news for that. But we're going to expose it all. We're going to talk about it all here. They wanted to turn America into a white minority country so that not only could they just lord over you and make you pay for the sins of, I guess, your ancestors. Maybe most of us weren't here. Most of us didn't have ancestors that owned slaves. Most of the blacks in this country don't have a direct tie to, oh, there goes the camera, don't have a direct tie to slavery themselves. More blacks have come to America since slavery was abolished. More white Americans have been in America thanks to the waves of immigration in the early 20th century than ever before. So most people in America have no tie to the past, but make no mistake, if whites become the minority in America, everything they've complained about, we need reparations, we're oppressed because of history, they will do the exact same thing to you. And rather than give you civil rights legislation, welfare programs. They will do to you what blacks have done in South Africa already, which is simply steal your land at best and murder you outright at worst. Yes, the black majority South African government condones and encourages the murder of its white farmers. So that's why Donald Trump said, this is a genocide, and we're going to resettle these people here. I've got some great photographs. I've got some great comments, but I had to just say that up front. This underscores and exposes the entire nonsensical, fraudulent, corrupt, immoral, evil debate being hosted right now by Democrats saying no human being is illegal. We're a wealthy country. We can support these people. Jesus told you to help the downtrodden and the poor and wash their feet. Again, I got to clarify that point too. Jesus never advocated for the state to do that. Excuse me, there goes the voice. The state to do that. He advocated for the individual to do that. And also they hate Christianity. And notice how even though they hate God, they hate the concept of Christianity, they will throw it at you because you believe in it. So never listen to an atheist, a God-hating Democrat, lecture you on what Jesus Christ would have done. Spare me all of that. You don't believe in it. You don't get an opinion on that. You don't get to not even just have an opinion on it. You don't get to lie about it. But they wanted to resettle all of the brown third world folks in here because they simply hate white people. Takes a lot of different angles here. Brown immigrants, the black oppressed community in America here, they will all eventually take power if this immigration is allowed to continue, if enough white liberals have all their white guilt and elect all these non-native English speakers or these just deranged black Democrat politicians. I can't find a single example. I looked, honestly, folks, I was trying to be fair. I looked for some like sane, fair, measured black Democrat elected official politician in Washington, D.C. Couldn't find a single one. They're all radical communists. They're all insane and they all hate you. They're all motivated by their hate. This is such a fascinating story that's been breaking this week here. Let's dive into the clips here. And again, we'll comment, we'll break it down, we'll add a little bit more to the stories. But here is Donald Trump. This is what set the stage for the resettlement program. Donald Trump gave a press conference and he said something no politician has ever dared to say, even though they all know it's happening. It's that the black majority South African government is murdering the white South African Afrikaner population. They murder them. And not only do they allow it to happen, they condone it, they encourage it, they celebrate it because they want to confiscate everything from the oppressive class, the white class. Doesn't that sound familiar here with your race Marxism? They're oppressors. They need to go. So here's Donald Trump laying it all out there. And this is what set the stage for the rest of the videos and the commentary to follow.
Killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
Man, that set the world on fire. Everything else that follows came from those comments from Donald Trump, and he's calling it like it is. He's calling out the media, and I appreciate his own measured tones there. He's saying, yeah, they're being persecuted because they're white, but it honestly doesn't matter if they're white. And I do take a little issue with that here because there are conflicts and problems all around the world. If our mentality is going to be that, well, some of these people are getting killed by their government, their corrupt government, then we would literally have to take in everybody here because the world is on fire. So I understand what Trump is doing here. And to his point, yeah, they're just getting murdered by their own government here. So we can offer them asylum. If we're willing under Joe Biden to offer 20 million illegals asylum for no reason whatsoever, seems like we could take in 60 million people that are basically a day away from death and murder by their own government. But it is important to underscore the fact that they are white. And this is not by accident in South Africa. They are targeted only because they are white. This is a much larger story that the media never wants to cover. I'm going to play this video clip here. This is a video. It has crosses just laid out as far as the eye can see. And the narration from the video went, the description of the video says that there's a cross for every murdered white farmer in South Africa. Folks, if you thought this was just a handful of incidents, you are sorely mistaken. Anyway, I encourage you to tune into our podcast on Friday where we're going to do a deep dive. I'm here to skim the surface, cover the story, offer some opinions on this because I was fired up. Sometimes I just do a show, 10 minutes before the show launches, I'm like, what am I fired up about today? What's going on here? So I covered this story. I felt like I had to. This is the biggest story right now. So not going to dedicate as much time as we will on Friday. It's always a longer show to begin with. We'll do a Rumble only with one of our business partners, Will Tanner, who writes exclusively on Rhodesia and South Africa and talks about how, yes, they want to turn America into that. They hate you for being white. They hate you for having freedom. They hate you for being wealthy. They hate you for having a constitution. They hate everything about this country. But take a look at these crosses. Can you imagine? Donald Trump even said this in his speech. This is what makes Trump so good. He just says it like it is. He can identify the real issues here. Can you imagine if those crosses represented black farmers in a white majority nation? Number one, you can't even wrap your head around the idea of a white nation doing that, a white majority country just murdering black farmers and arming citizens and encouraging that and passing legislation to say, yes, we are going to confiscate your land here. Can you imagine if this were America, a white majority country still, and hopefully in the future, murdering, just allowing the murder of all of its black farmers? This would be number one news story for the rest of your lifetime here. The government would be overthrown. Every major city would be on fire here. But because it is white farmers in South Africa, you don't even know about it. So yes, when they're coming to America, I'm all for it. I'm all for it for a couple of reasons as well. So Donald Trump resettled this wave right now, 60 white South Afrikaners. I'm terrible with vowel sounds. And you would think that he brought in the entire country, every white person in South Africa, which, by the way, I would fully support. But he is bringing attention again to the fact. I'm going to repeat this a lot throughout the episode here because it is that important to talk about. It reminds me of the Martha's Vineyard stunt that Ron DeSantis pulled. And yes, it was a stunt. And yes, it was also fantastic because it exposed how these white, secluded, virtue signaling Democrats actually like illegal immigration either. Do you remember, what was this, 4 years ago? Maybe it was 2022 when Ron DeSantis flew 50 illegal Venezuelans up to Martha's Vineyard and they lasted a day. They were gone in the next day or two. All these rich Democrat voters out there said, we can't support them. There's no room in the community. What are they going to do? Where are they going to stay? And the rest of America, every Midwest rural community was asking the same question at the same time. Like, what do you mean you don't want them here? What do you mean there's no room? What do you mean there's no services for these people? Like, that's what we're saying, and you call us a bigot, a racist, a xenophobe, and then you send them there anyways, thanks to, and now what Doge has uncovered here, the massive scandal with Catholic social services, Lutheran social services, all these resettlement programs, which, by the way, all these Dem donors or Dem-aligned people happen to make 6 figures and 7 figures running the programs here, and no one's life was made better in the communities that they got airdropped into. Where I live in Minnesota, if anyone in Midwest, Minnesota area knows, like, we have so many resettled Somalis. St. Cloud, Minnesota used to just be this rural farm town. It was kind of like the bigger city as you left the Twin Cities and headed up north to your cabins or whatever here, but it was a larger city. Older, white. If you go up there today, all you see are women in the full get up here. All you see are dudes walking around in the middle of the day. Nobody is working. Nobody is contributing. I worked in the school system in St. Cloud for 3 years, 2 years, 2.5 years. I worked in schools that 20 years ago were all white. We're talking 500 kids. And then when I worked there, it was 98% Somali students. And that's just what St. Cloud is dealing with now. But that's all over the country. So if you're in Martha's Vineyard, don't worry. Your schools are going to stay white for your kids. But if you live in St. Cloud and you didn't vote for this and you didn't have a say in this, and all of a sudden you wake up and it turns out you're sending your kid to a school that is 98% Somali everywhere you drive. St. Cloud has some of the deadliest roads in Minnesota. No wonder, by the way. It is simply amazing here. But sure, you're going to bring in 60 whites, and suddenly immigration is bad. Yeah, Donald Trump said we don't need any more immigration, and he's bringing in 60 whites. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. It's like, no, you guys actually never cared about these immigrants to begin with. You cared about changing this country politically, changing it culturally, changing it demographically. You hate this country. You hate that it's a white Christian country. You hate that its founding on white European Christian ideals is actually what made it great. Turns out you can't import other people or even export these same ideas and have it work the same way. There is something unique, and I'm not going on a racist tangent. Try to portmanteau that word, will you? But this is just a fact. There is something to be said about white Christians. There is just a different DNA, a different genetic makeup. There is a different perspective on life, and however that shakes out, that is just a fact. You can't build in America in other parts of the world. There are lots of different values, principles, worldviews, philosophies, cultures, histories. It just can't happen. Remember when we tried to make democracy in Iraq under Bush 2? That didn't work out very well because it turns out it's not made for everybody. Our way of life in America is special. It's unique. And Democrats hate that. They absolutely hate that. They hate everything about its founding, white and Christian. And so they're trying to ruin it. And that's what Donald Trump is exposing here. We can bring in 20 million Mexicans and Indians and Africans, and that's okay. But if you bring in 60 whites that are aligned with your values, your ethics, suddenly that's a bad thing and it's white supremacy here. But it exposes all of it. It exposes all of it. They never cared about refugees. Shouldn't Democrats be championing the fact that Donald Trump saved people from persecution? Like if you took the race out of this, just hypothetical thought experiment here. If you took out the race of the white South Afrikaners and you simply told a Democrat, hey, Dem, I know you voted for wide open borders. I know you're really concerned about the plight of refugees and asylees and bringing them to America because we can afford it and we're a land of immigrants. And if you just said, I found a group of people getting murdered by their government. They're going to be murdered tomorrow if they're not on the next plane out. We got to settle them here. And it's just 60. I mean, we took in 20 million. What's 60 more? Your Dem voter would be like, absolutely. America can take 60 more. And then wouldn't you know, as soon as you bring in race, this is now a bad thing. It exposes all of it. And again, it also exposes, I got to hammer this point home again too, it exposes the fact that this is the end result of a black majority democracy. Do you think for a second in America that if we allowed the black Democrats to take power, that they've been arguing for years, give us more, we just want equal rights and equal protection, we just want the same thing that you all have. Do you think they would, if they got in power, reverse the roles and say, we're a black majority country, we want to make sure the whites have a fair chance as well. We're going to implement affirmative action for whites in college applications and affirmative action for hiring in the corporate media world or a corporate sector or even the public sector with government jobs. We're going to ask you what your race is, and if you're white, you're going to get some bonus points. Do you think they would DEI in the advantage of whites? Okay, folks, we're a black majority country. I see 10 black faces in this board meeting here. You know what we need? We need a white perspective. Let's make sure that we pass a law for DEI that says every board will have 2 white people. Do you think they would do that? Do you think when their government sanctioned the murder of white farmers that they would say, hold on, black majority, pump the brakes on this. We can't murder whites. Never mind the fact that whites enslaved your ancestors and white supremacy and blah, blah, blah. Do you think they would say, slow your roll? Or do you think they would say, this is what was coming. You are owed this. You deserve all the murder and all the land theft and all of the everything else that's happening to you. You deserve it because of history. Do you think it's an accident that Ibram X. Kendi said that the only solution to past discrimination is present discrimination, and the only solution to present discrimination is future discrimination? Is there any difference between the South African, what's their, I'm having a brain fart for a second, but the Black Majority Party, I got a video clip of him. I always forget his name, Julius Malema. There's no difference between him and Ibram X. Kendi. One guy has political power, so he's implementing it. But Ibram X. Kendi and the ilk, his kind, if they got in power in America, you think they wouldn't do the exact same thing? Well, the solution to past discrimination, however we justify past discrimination, sorry, this just in, folks, but slavery was universal. Blacks in Africa sold other blacks to European traders. So you guys were a little complicit in the slave trade as well. Turns out if blacks all unified against the Europeans and they took the same side and said, you know what, we're going to stand up together against these white European slave traders, then there's no slave trade. What are the Europeans going to do? They've got like ship of 50 dudes against a whole continent of people that are saying, no, you can't take us as slaves. But it turns out blacks in Africa were enslaving one another long before whites came, long before the Europeans came. Turns out they also sold a lot of blacks to Middle Easterners as well. The only reason you don't see blacks in the Middle East, even though I think the number is 17 million is what historians say. Honestly, the number doesn't even matter. It's a lot, and it's more than what we sent. I think 5 million, like we're talking 2x, 3x, blacks going to the Middle East versus the New World. But you don't see blacks in the Middle East because they were horrific to them. You want to talk mistreatment, you're talking the murder, castration. There is no black skin in the Middle East. There are no blacks in the Middle East because they were all killed and castrated. Meanwhile, you got blacks in the New World here in the Americas because that didn't happen. And there were less of them, by the way. And so there was slavery everywhere. America abolished slavery. We freed the blacks, and yet we are the bad guy here. Man, there are so many just things about this. I'm really regretting, by the way, the fact that I mistitled my program here. Who's going to tune in to watch Freshman MAGA Rep Brandon Gill nuke America hating Ilhan Omar? Fascinating story. Actually, that episode did quite well for me on my small little Rumble channel. But that is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about how the white Afrikaner debate proves Dems hate you. And they never cared about illegals. They never cared about refugees. They never cared about asylum seekers. They cared about changing forever the landscape of America, demographically, culturally, politically. Because guess what, folks? We've been making this point a long time. Cuban refugees are always a great example. You can be someone from anywhere in the world. You can come from a socialist country, a poor country, a dictatorship, and you can come to America. It's just fine. But if you're from a tiny little island, and when you land in Miami, you tend to vote Republican and have conservative values, it's weird how we turn those votes away. Now, I'm for turning all votes away, and all caravans away, and all airplane loads away. But we never allowed Cubans to come when everybody else could come. That's because they would vote right. They would vote for Republicans. They would say, whoa, we don't want all this here. We just escaped communism. I don't want to bring communism to America. The Cubans get it. So the Cubans were never allowed to come. And it's the same thing with the white South Afrikaners. They aren't welcome here because they are Christian. They are white. We can't escape that fact. And they will probably vote for the America First movement. I have a great image here. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. We're going to go to my X here. Take a look at this picture. Let me make sure it's... Yeah, I've never shared a screen in Rumble Studio. Apologies, folks. I'm sharing the screen. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to pretend you can see it. I'm going to narrate it anyways. We're going to be on Apple and Spotify anyways here. But there is a meme, and on one side it says immigrants under Biden, and you've got the guy in New York that was just causing mayhem, and he got arrested, and he's given the middle finger, both middle fingers, to cameras as he's walking by. That dude got released, by the way. And then on the right side of the meme, you've got immigrants under Trump, and you got a picture of these newly arrived Americans, and the little baby is waving an American flag. That is the difference. That's why they hate this, because these people are coming to America and appreciate America. I got another meme similar to the story here. Again, I don't know if you can see this if you're watching live here, but I'm going to narrate it for my audio audience. On the left side, it says Mexicans who've been in the U.S. for 3 generations. You've got some shrieking fat Mexican lunatic here waving the Mexican flag. And on the right side, it says Afrikaners who've been in the U.S. for half an hour. Sweet little white girl waving the American flag. You can see the adult behind her has an American flag pinned on her shirt. It is simply stunning. Simply stunning. This is why the left doesn't want it. They don't want more people to vote for the America First movement. They don't even want immigrants that are grateful to be in America. They want people that hate this country, have been told to hate this country here. They want people that will just depend on the government. You're going to have all these farmers from South Africa. I guarantee it, folks. I am saying it right now. 100% of these people will not rely on government handouts. 100% of these people will assimilate into the country. They will work hard. They will raise good families. They will be productive citizens of this country here. That's why the left hates them as well. I think I have other... I don't know if I can read this one. I'm just going to read while I was here. I was going to share the screen anyways and just kind of talk about some of the stuff. that we had going up here. So just some of the commentary here. We'll start at the top here. So Matt Walsh wrote, "The Great Replacement is real. If you had any doubt, this story about the South African refugees should clear it up for you. The left wants unchecked third world migration because they want to make America less white. That's it. It's that simple. That's why they oppose the white refugees, because white refugees defeat the whole purpose of the program." Fantastically stated, fantastic summation of the entire debate. Again, it is simply about anti-white sentiment. If you have white refugees, it defeats the purpose because we're trying to make the country less white. Matt Walsh also wrote, I saved two of his comments here because, again, it's perfect. It explains everything. He writes, "There has been a giant psyop conducted for years to convince white people that they aren't native to their own homeland." Does that sound familiar? White South Africans have been there for 15 generations, and yet somehow they still don't count as native. White people have been in the Americas for 500 years, and yet somehow we aren't allowed to call this our native land. It doesn't matter if your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather built a cabin on this land with his own hands. It still isn't your land. It's totally incoherent, but most white people accept this framing. James Kirkpatrick, another great follow on X. "I rest my case that refugee resettlement," he had that in quotes, "is entirely driven by hatred against whites, and they import nons because they are harmful." And that was a quote tweet here. I had an image as well, but here's an insane story. I think I got something from NPR as well to share with you folks. Breaking news, the Episcopal Church has announced it will end its decades-old partnership with the government to resettle refugees, citing moral opposition to resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa who have been classified as refugees by Trump. Folks, Doge pointed out that we spent hundreds of millions of dollars funneling money, laundering money to these corrupt NGOs. Your Episcopal Church, that's, by the way, where Marion Bundy is from. She was the one that gave that just insane woke lecture to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and family when they were at the D.C. Cathedral after his inauguration here, saying, "Be kind to the refugees." That's that Marion Bundy, folks. The same Marion Bundy that was worried that Donald Trump was going to be mean to illegals. Her church has announced that it won't resettle these white Africans because reasons. Let's see here. We've got... This is a fantastic one as well. So some loser Dem over on X here, I won't even say his name, it doesn't matter, but he took a picture of the airport, and it's the white South Africans with their suitcases at the airport, ready to come to America, ready to be saved from death. And he says, "These aren't your traditional refugees. Look at that. They have money. They have suitcases. A refugee should be poor and brown." And so Vagrant Rhodes, again, another great follow on X here, he quote tweets this and says, "The idea that refugees should actually be families, women and children, instead of 20-year-old schizoids and cartel drug dealers completely boggles the liberal mind. They literally cannot comprehend taking in someone who actually needs our help instead of parasitic criminals." Love that comment. Let us keep going here. Oilfield Rando, who is a spicy take on X, writes, "South Africa is the American left's wettest wet dream. Black communists take political power and use it to mercilessly persecute white capitalists. You're damn right they're mad that 59 of their enemies were allowed to escape the retribution. No one is allowed to escape. No one is allowed to escape communism." I hope people on Rumble and YouTube and X right now can see this picture here. I'll describe it. It's a cute South African girl, a cute white girl here. And the comment says, "One more plane full of refugees like this, and the lib white boomer ladies will be bombing DHS offices and building a mile-high border wall." Fantastic. That is fantastic right there. We got more. Jeremy Kaufman, who I also follow on X, great follow, he writes, "People need to understand how much immigration changes a place." So he does a thought experiment as well. Remember when all the Haitians were dropped into Springfield, Ohio, and the pets disappeared, and everything changed, and now the community is ruined forever? Well, imagine 10,000 Boer were dropped in a small Ohio town and the entire place changed. Here's how he describes that change. Streets were stripped of trash. Rapes fell, stealing jobs from police. People started speaking English, but with a funny accent. Can you imagine? I want zero illegal immigrants from the rest of the world here. I do not want to live in a community of illegal immigrants. I would live in a community of these Afrikaners. 100%. They're great people. They share my values. They share my worldview. They share my ethics. They share everything. I would gladly welcome all of the white South Afrikaners to America in a heartbeat because they wouldn't change America. They would actually make America a better place. We need more people like this. I've said before, I stand by this here, I would gladly trade people like this for anyone that votes Democrat. If you scream about how awful this country is, how racist this country is, how supremacist this country is, I'll trade you 1-to-1. I will trade you for these boars. They can come here and take your place. You can go deal with that over there. Can you imagine a white Democrat saying how awful this country is and then going to South Africa and then someone just bangs down their door in the middle of the night and then rapes their daughters and murders them? And then like, at least I'm not in a racist country anymore. Absolutely insane stuff here. So many comments. I got so many comments. This is from Raw Egg Nationalist. Trump's Afrikaner refugee policy is genius. Not just because Afrikaners genuinely deserve protection, but also because it's forcing liberals and leftists to reveal the true depth of their exterminationist dreams for white people. When people tell you who they are, believe them. All right, and then I had this headline here, and Wokeness said they're not even hiding it anymore. That's now you have the churches, all these NGOs refusing to resettle white Afrikaners. And then that gets to our CNN clip. We'll go back to that. Here, let me stop sharing the screen. I don't know if you saw any of that, but I thought they were great comments here. If you're listening on audio, or if you're even just watching and you got to listen to it, fantastic spots here. Let's head over to CNN. This is how CNN is covering this topic right now. Listen to how they describe that this is a bad policy.
And part of that is that
the South African president says the people arriving in the U.S. today do not fit the definition of refugees, and that what Trump has been told about their persecution is false.
Oh, well, there goes the clip. So much for that. I was trying to find, I had a Scott Jennings clip. Hang on with me, folks, for just 1 second. We'll go back to Scott Jennings later if we can. So she's not happy about it. We'll go to MSNBC for a second. Here's how MSNBC describes the program as well.
Trump has virtually halted refugee admission in America for people fleeing war and famine in places like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Back with Rick, Mark, and Eddie. Rick Stengel.
Yes, it's so deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid. They're not directly responsible for it, but it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. It was something called a Bantustan policy, where they moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing, white supremacist movements around the world, that it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland.
I had to stop, folks. The gaslighting is off the charts here. Instead of talking about the current plight of whites in South Africa, did you notice the history lesson? And this is what they always do. They always have to point to a time in the distant past because they can't actually cite examples today of, oh, you mean blacks are the majority in South Africa and blacks are in political power here and blacks are murdering whites. And if you go to America and you listen to black people, they're, oh, it's so bad here. It's a racist country. It's a white supremacist country. Do you remember when we had Jim Crow? We had Jim Crow in America. That's proof that this is a racist country. Do you remember when we had slavery? That's proof this is a racist country. Do you remember redlining in the 1960s? People were redlined. America is so racist. And you ask them, like, can you give me an example in 2025 how America hurts you? Because I can look at affirmative action, civil rights, welfare programs. I mean, we have paid over $20 trillion in welfare. I think reparations, that debate is done right now. These communities have been given everything. You have DEI. You can literally get hired ahead of someone, advanced in front of someone, simply for being black. So I can tell you how it is advantageous to be black in America. Can you tell me how it's disadvantageous to be black in America in 2025? And if they're honest, they'll be like, you're right. It's actually not a bad place to live. But they're not honest. They're brainwashed. They're deluded. They're full of hate. No matter what is given to the black community, we could write checks for $100,000 tomorrow for every black in America. And do you think that these black communist activists would say, the score is settled? Thank you, white America. Let us advance together and make this country better. We will fix our culture. We will fix our broken homes in the inner city. We will stop having all of our young men shoot each other in these violent, horrific gang-affiliated crimes. Do you think that would happen? Or do you think they would get a check tomorrow and then the very next day just keep talking about how awful this country is? I know which one I think they would do. It's never enough. We could literally do reparations and nothing would change. But yeah, they had apartheid in South Africa, so that's proof that this is justified. He is basically justifying the theft of land, the murder of farmers because apartheid. Not because of the situation today, the current realities on the ground, but because of apartheid 30, 40 years ago. So that's okay. Did you also know, though, that when the whites leave South Africa or they're all killed, one or the other, killed or departed, there is no infrastructure left in South Africa. I'm actually rooting for this to happen. I had a YouTube viewer. I think YouTube is still allowing me to talk about this. They might not like this next comment here. I am rooting for the absolute departure of all whites from South Africa. I want them all resettled in America here. I want there to be 0 whites left in South Africa. And I am rooting for the cataclysmic collapse of the entire nation. Who is going to work in the power plants? Who's going to provide electricity? Who's going to grow the food? Who's going to work a job and pay taxes to provide for all the social programs that they have as a communist nation? Who's going to be the bad guy when they're all blacks left over? Isn't that a fascinating thing to think about? If all the whites leave, and you would think they'd be like, it's our nation now. We got our land back, our historical tribal land, because that's something that we should believe, apparently. Do you think that they would live like Wakanda? Or do you think their country would starve and turn on each other? And you would still have the Julius Malemas on one side. You would have another aspiring black tyrannical politician come up, and they would just start fighting each other. It doesn't matter. I mean, they hate white people, but make no mistake, their problems will not go away when whites go away. Their problems will get worse, and I'm rooting for it. I hate to say it, but if you are a black in South Africa and you condone the murder of whites and the theft of land of whites and the radicalization of your country, they have DEI enshrined in their constitution. Nothing good comes from that. Nothing good comes from communism in general, and nothing especially good comes from the fact that they are vilifying the whites over there. Their country will fail. They will starve to death. They will become even more poor than they already are. And honestly, I would love for that to happen because they can't blame whites at that point. So what are you going to do, South Africa, when that happens? What are you going to do, mainstream media, when you cover the collapse of South Africa? Are you going to be honest and say, turns out we needed some white folks down there? It would be a fascinating story. So yes, I am rooting for that. I want all the whites to be taken out of South Africa, and I want to see what happens next. Good luck down there. Okay, I think I found the Scott Jennings clips, re-downloaded that. Take a listen to CNN just admit all of this out loud, why they're opposed to bringing in South Afrikaners.
Okay. So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, where I think it is 80% of the population that are black Africans only own 4% of the land. That is because they were put in shanty towns and moved into areas where they had no rights. And so 30 plus years ago, they went through a the apartheid system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great leader of Nelson Mandela. And that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do. But South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave. that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and
are
go,
coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably.
Holland.
Are you
yes.
against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening, like there is in other places in Sudan, in the Congo, I'm not opposed for Congolese and for the Sudanese to come to Africa, just like I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum.
Okay.
What I am
just
against,
these 50 people you're
what
against.
I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land.
Well,
so you know what they tell people?
But there's a very high crime rate in South Africa. They have a crime problem. I suspect that part of what's going on here is that there is a very high-profile white South African named Elon Musk, who is very close to President Trump and is probably making this a very high-profile issue and talking to Trump about it. You know, Elon Musk has tweeted about it. He's, I think, called the president of South Africa about it. He's been.
So that is a fascinating exchange. They won't answer the question directly. They ask very simply, are you opposed to these 50 people coming? You know she is. You know all these people are. And then again, they got to point to the apartheid example. They got to do the whataboutism. Well, Sudan and the Congo. Well, I don't want them here because I've laid that case out. They are the example of what Joe Biden let in. Have they made America a better place? Guess what? As America, we should be able to decide, are you coming here? Will you make it better? And if not, no, then you don't get to come here. Those folks would not make it better, so no, they don't get to come here. These Afrikaners will make it better, so they do get to come here. And that's why the left hates it, though. They don't want people coming in here that are self-sufficient. These are like the immigrants of old. No welfare programs in 1900. You just come here, you work hard, you make a better life for yourself and for your family. That's what these folks are going to do. They won't depend on the government. They're going to hate the government as it stands under Democrats here. That's what these communist race hustlers are so opposed to. But it is wild. They're like, well, it's because of Elon Musk. There's no genocide happening. Folks, I played the clip of the crosses here. You can listen to these people tell their own stories as they come here. We fled because our neighbors were murdered. We fled because we were afraid of getting murdered here. There's no genocide. And the fact that I love the argument now, this love it or leave it. The black gal, this former Obama advisor, you can see under the chyron there. She said, you know what? If white South Afrikaners, they have a democracy, you know, they can elect, they can vote for different things. And if they don't like it, they can leave it. Well, guess what? They are leaving it. You're opposed to them leaving it. Where are they going to go? You want them to go to Holland, where they're from? They've been there for 15 generations, moron. But we've been saying for a long time, if you don't love America, you can leave it. If you vote Democrat because you hate this country, we have long been saying, especially the Hollywood celebs, that like, if Trump wins, I'm going to Canada. I mean, Rosie made good on that. She went to Ireland, which is hilariously like majority white, hilariously Christian, more so than America. Everything Rosie O'Donnell hates about America, she goes to the country of Ireland, which is more of all that, more white, more Christian, more everything. So good job, Rosie O'Donnell. But they always threaten to leave, and we would say, fine, yeah, if you don't like America, then you can leave America. Like, love it or leave it. So we said that for a long time, and they never made good on that. But now suddenly these whites in South Africa, they can just leave it. Suddenly our argument is now coming out there. Man, there's so much hate in their heart. Folks, I'm going to make this really easy. This is a very simple problem. You either support Donald Trump bringing in these Afrikaners to America, or you hate this country and you hate Christians and you hate white people. That is it. There are no like both sides here. I know all these Redditors. I've got friends that read Reddit for their news and they think they're so smart, and they're not political, so they don't take sides. They just look at this issue. They say both sides are bad. This is not a both sides issue. This is a black and white issue. Pun intended, I guess. I mean, but this is very clear where the lines are being drawn. You either support what Donald Trump is doing, you hate the South African government, you condone the murder of white farmers, or you're an absolute moron that supports evil. That is it. That is my proposition right here. That's my premise. This is not a debatable issue here. This should not be hard to figure out. And especially, and I love this because now Dems are all pretzeled up in their brain here. I was on board with 20 million illegals coming here, but God forbid Trump resettle 50 whites from South Africa. And it must be because Elon Musk is from South Africa. And he's a prominent white man in the Trump administration, and Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And man, folks, I can't clear this up anymore. I wish we had a holiday coming up. I think I have to wait for Memorial Day. Mother's Day just passed. Maybe Memorial Day or Father's Day we'll get a little gathering with the family again. But I would love to ask my Democrat voting family members and close friends. Where do you stand on this? How do you reconcile supporting the mass immigration of everybody around the world, and now you're outraged because the TV told you to be, that bringing in 50 whites from South Africa is suddenly bad? I can't wait for this conversation with them. I love these conversations. All right, but now we got to get to this. This is Julius Malema. I think I'm finally getting his name right here. This is what they're fleeing from, folks. In BLM's height, BLM is a fraudulent organization. It was corrupt from the beginning here. The founders were admitted Marxists who took millions of dollars from these scaredy cat woke companies. They live in nice white gated communities here. No one's life is made better, by the way, in Black America. Can anyone point to, and again, I'm asking my Democrat audience for this one, all the trolls, it'll be like, oh, Todd's a white supremacist. I am asking genuinely for a Democrat to tell me this because I cannot find examples. Has BLM elevated, lifted up the life of even just one Black person? Have they stopped one gang shooting? Have they bought one home for an impoverished Black family? Has BLM done anything for the Black community, or do they just kind of show up when there's a questionable police shooting, which could have been avoided if the Black man usually had just complied, and even before that had not been involved in criminal activity? It's really easy. Just don't be a criminal. And if you get caught, just comply and let the system work out that way, instead of fighting back and resisting and lying about not being able to breathe. But has BLM done anything for Blacks? Because I know what BLM really wants to do, and that is just burn this country down and replace whites with everybody else. That's what they're doing in South Africa, folks. Here is their political leader, Julius Malema, and this is the famous kill the Boer chant. Kill the Boer. Can you imagine if Donald Trump was up there from the White House podium chanting, kill the Blacks, or kill the illegals, or repeal the 19th and kill the women? Can you imagine? But it is completely normal. And in fact, I would wager that not a single Democrat in America knows that this is a repeat thing. Take a listen. So nothing to see here, folks. Just the Black majority leader of South Africa chanting, kill the Boer, kill the farmer. And you wonder why these white farmers, the Boer farmers, are coming to America. Could it be that they value their lives? And I got to say this too. They are grateful to be in America. They love America. America saved their life. And I am extending an open hand. I am hugging them, open arms. Welcome to America. Welcome to your new home. And they are welcoming us back. They are saying thank you. They are saying I'm proud to be an American here. They know what this great country is about here. And again, that's why the left hates them. That's why the Dems hate them. They don't want grateful immigrants. They don't want immigrants that are going to work hard. They don't want immigrants that look like the majority of the country here. They wanted to brown the country. They wanted to make the country more dependent. They wanted to make it less white. They wanted to make it poor. They wanted there to be more crime. They want America to turn into South Africa. There is no way around it, folks. And with that being said, again, I'm at 47 minutes. It's longer than I thought I would do today. I say that every show. I was only going to do 20 minutes, and then it turns into almost an hour here. But I got to say this little spoiler, just a little foreshadowing here. On Friday, you're not going to want to miss our episode where we cover this story again, but it won't be me ranting and rambling. Hey, we got Fally in the chat right there. Look at that. Good morning, Fally, to you. Good morning on break here. I'm glad you caught the show here. And I got to apologize again here. Trump just passed an order to bring the white farmers here. I love it, Fally. Fally, if you're just joining me here, I said this earlier. I want every white South African brought to America. I want there to be 0 whites left in South Africa. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. That is their home, generationally been their home. 15 generations of farming of their white families. But they have a death sentence there. If they stay, they will be persecuted and killed. I don't celebrate the fact that they need to come to America, but I'm just stating factually that they need to come to America to survive. I want them all to leave, and I want the entirely black nation of South Africa to fail. They will have no infrastructure left. They have nobody that can manage the systems there, be it their electrical systems, their roads, their government's already corrupt. They will have nothing left. There will be no one to grow their food. South Africa will fail miserably. People will be killed. People will starve to death. But I'm here for it because they've made their bed and they can sleep in it now for all I care. So good. I'm glad to see Trump just passed that order here. We got the breaking news here. Fally agrees with that. Yeah, welcome aboard. I would invite a white Afrikaner family into my house if they need to get their feet on the ground here. So Trump admin, let it be known, I would take in a family. We'll make it work here. They seem like wonderful people. In fact, they are wonderful people. I'll help them get started here. They can come into my spare bedroom. I will take one of these families here. But I want them all to leave. I want South Africa to fail miserably. This is my message to Democrats in America here. I think Dem voters, I hate to say it, need to be assaulted with reality sometimes. If you're going to vote for illegal immigration, I think your community needs to be changed. I think your wife or daughter tragically needs to be affected by violent illegal families and criminals. I think you need to have more criminals in your neighborhood terrorizing your home, breaking in. I need Democrats to experience their own policies, the consequences of voting Democrat. So with South Africa, I want them to experience all of the hardship that comes with being a race communist. I want South Africa to fail. I want their lives to be miserable. And I don't think they're going to wake up because of it. But again, if their lives don't fail, they'll never wake up anyways. So what do we have to lose here? And Fally says, without any knowledge to farm, they will starve. I am here for it, Fally. They created the situation, and now they can live with the consequences. Fally, I thank you for joining me here. It was a lonely show today. I had no problem with that. It just means I talk more, and maybe that's to my own detriment. But we had some clips, Fally. Check out the previous recording here. I mistitled the show. I got to say this again one more time for my Apple and my Spotify audience here. If you're listening on audio, you weren't necessarily impacted by that. But yeah, I think I lost some viewers today because nobody wants to hear what a freshman MAGA rep has to say. They want to hear what Donald Trump and what we have to say about this insane immigrant story that, again, exposes, I'll summarize the show with this one here. It exposes the entire con of the immigration debate. If no human is illegal, if our country is wealthy enough to take people in, why is it that we can take in 20 million folks under Joe Biden, but we can't take in 50 under Donald Trump? And again, I equated that to the Martha's Vineyard stunt as well. Turns out they only want certain immigrants in certain places. And by certain immigrants, I mean brown and uneducated. And in certain places, I mean white rural America. The cities already got enough. The blue states don't need any more because they already vote Democrat. They wanted to change swing states and red states, so that's why they dropped them there specifically. Fally, I'm not calling you out here. They still think, oh, no, you said they still think Mandela was a good guy. Yeah, Fally knows. I know. Folks, you need to tune into our show on Friday. Our business partner, Will Tanner, will do a deep dive on Nelson Mandela. This man is an awful human being. He is burning in hell right now. Nelson Mandela is not a hero, not a savior, not a good guy whatsoever here. You should just read up on tires and fires and necklaces to get you started there. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, Fally, here. But yeah, Friday, folks, is going to be just a barn burner of a show here. We're going to dispel all the myths, all of the rumors here. But I appreciate you tuning in. Man, I am fired up about this topic here. I love that Dems are getting exposed so much. The entire immigration debate is over. It was never about bringing in people to give them a better life. It was simply about destroying this country, changing it demographically, culturally, and politically. That's all it ever was. And that is why they never wanted Cubans to come here. That is absolutely why they don't want South Africans to come here that are white, because it defeats the whole purpose. That means you can't change the country demographically because they're white. You can't change it culturally because we align in culture and values. And you can't change it politically because I guarantee all of these white South Afrikaners that got resettled in America will be voting for Donald Trump in the America First movement moving forward because they are grateful to this country and they love this country. This story is going to only pick up more steam here. I am here for it, folks. But with that being said, we are going to get out of here. Thank you for tuning in. And again, I got to give a special thank you to my Rumble audience and my Locals audience. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for your money. Thank you for taking the time to watch this show. It sounds trite. I do mean it, though. You have so many options out there. There are so many great shows on Rumble. There's so many things on YouTube, so many things you can scroll through on X and get your news. If you took the time to even watch the show, I do thank you for that. Thank you for being part of the community that we're building at the American Tribune Live. And if you have given up some of your hard-earned resources, we are getting more and more local subscriptions. We are getting more subscriptions on our Rumble channel when we do our shows on Friday at the American Tribune channel. I truly appreciate all of that, your viewership, your financial support of the program here. But we will be back next Thursday, 9:30ish. We never have a set time here. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for our show, but we go when we're ready. We go when we feel like it. But we'll be back on Thursday. I imagine we might continue covering this story because it's only going to develop more in the next 48 hours. But again, folks, you got to tune in Friday. Freedom from the Press podcast. You can find that on our main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. You can catch it on our YouTube, on our Twitters. You can catch it on all the Facebook presence that we have here. You're not going to want to miss that show because we are going to do a deep dive, and a smart deep dive at that, with our Tariff Will. And I am looking forward to it, folks. Boy, we are going to blow this entire story out of the water. But with that being said, thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic Tuesday. We'll catch you on Thursday.
Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great.